Most welcome to the Voice of Evolution. I'm Charlotte Chi. I'm actually more or less a spiritual scientist, an artist, a therapist, everything that makes up the composition of your life, your chromosomes, your gene pool, and everything that is out there that needs to match is my field of interest, and resetting the earth where it needs to be. So today let's talk about the difference between divine will and free will. There's so many questions about it, yet for myself I stream on divine will at all times, because I know that is when I get redirected, that is when I can complete old stuff, that is when I know when things go off somehow, that I get some inspiration, and that lifts me up with many teams of light out there in this bigger world, in the cosmos, and connecting with them 24/7, because that is your authenticity. It is your origin to reconnect with yourself. And so it's very important to understand the key of biological transformation, actually, or going beyond the biological limitation of present day consciousness, which happened many years ago when grid keepers didn't hold their assignments, and so there came holes in the crystalline grids, and that broke everything down into the dark ages or dual consciousness. And so that was being excused by the White Brotherhood. And so that big white way, that great gate into highest level health and healing, has been held back from the planet for such a long time. So it has been restored right now. But it's important also to understand how much light matters and why we are here in many different assignments on the planet, essentially like I do, to repair yourself, and knowing how to do that, how to work with the origin of color-coded rays and transform actually your soul evolution into spiritual evolution, because that is the whole goal actually. And when everything broke, that is reason why today vast numbers of humanity have not used the language of color. That is because they remain on the fallen Illuminati, so to speak, or whatever, the reptiles, the consciousness that can move into your home, into your night sleep, can move into your brain and stop you from evolving, unless you had the strength to at least install your spiritual embodiment in a lighthouse, a light crystalline grid that moves in your house and that moves with you everywhere that you go. And that is very important to understand, because it is the creation of origin, and your original creation, or how you came in to creation. So understanding that, then we can understand that we are reconstructing the gene pool, the chromosomal levels into higher evolution. And so we need at some point understand how the ancestor projected the first white and blue waves on the planet, because the Earth is essentially a blue wave planet. A blue wave consciousness is connected to faith, to trust. It can quickly recalculate your body into higher consciousness. It is the highest level of peace and harmony you can have if you put that consciousness on that particular level, let's say in a blue way. That is how it works, and so that is being done actually through color geometries that format a grid containing colors, and that have a certain temperature to them as well. And so through these color grids there are many crystallizations happening or possible, to a point where you can attract your essence back into authenticity. And that is very interesting, because to facilitate this grid at a higher evolution, actually, we use color attachment that scans your genetics, and then there is a certain temperature that opens up color codes. Let's say if you would like to work with a blue ray, and the temperature augments into the white ray and has some gold tones to it that gives a lot more heat. It's a chemical composition, the alchemist, right, the gold. And so that attachment can be distributed into your cells, and from there on your cells can move in to light parts, and the light parts, they move into light waves. So that is essentially where the new physics will rise, because light waves bring through the communication through many dimensions that coordinate with higher levels of knowledge we need to infuse. So, and we have thus the ability to project, let's say, many different colors into one spectrum, but we need to know what these colors are in consciousness. And when we are open to learn about the consciousness, we can apply color codes, color combinations, and these color combinations, when applied in a crystalline grid especially, they can open up geometric patterns that make you move on to the other side of light or midnight, far away from duality. So we are all here to break the dual chords, move into the chords of harmony, authenticity, your original lifelines, and those things. And so these color codes can make up that the chromosome move into another time zone. And so it's very important also to note here, and to know at least the first 12 ways of creations that make up the body, and why the seventh way is so important. So if we understand white and great healing, then comes the blue way, the harmony, the peaceful measures, the channeling capabilities, and so much more. The yellow sun, the great central sun, the action-oriented fire engine, and then opening up essentially in the spiritual environment, or the highest seventh way, which is the lavender way of creation. That is important, because there is a color code in everything, and it's the spiritual body that can move into the lower frequency, but can also adjust into the higher degrees or any dimension. And that is why it is so important to at least carry or integrate a spiritual body through your meditational alignment and your practices. So and that can be done through anything. So I was just noticing here, like, okay, we understand we have a blood circulation, we have the bone construction, we have the skin, we have the blood circulation, and essentially we have water. So all that biological content needs to be released from any dual consciousness. And so you might be thinking you need to become a surgeon, but essentially, yes, you can do that. And it's not too hard to work with your anatomy, your biology, just one day at a time, and see how interesting your color spectrum can become. And so that is reason why when you start your foundation in evolution, it starts off with a crystal grid, because that is the origin of creation. There is massive billions of grids out there for you to see, to partake of, to communicate with, and to rise into higher degrees of consciousness, should you be willing to learn about them and just install one foundation in the home. Because from a foundation you can work with many other grids. For example, you can install a grid that is the eye of the divine and work on opening your physical eyes, the pineal, amygdala region, many other glands that go with that composition, and move with your mastery ways. Mastery ways usually codes when we move out of duality, so the 0-1 code, and we move back into the origin, which is triangular codes. We move from 0-1 into 0-1-2. That is, remember the capstone, the eye on top of the pyramid, it's triangular. That's the origin. And so, yes, I hope our computer systems will soon pick that up, and our IT engineers will start opening up that new technology. But for us, I'm stating this because working, meditating, connecting with your divine family here on the earth is very much possible, because the earth is transitioning into health and purity, and so the elements are assisting us. Well, we assist the elements to purify again, because let's be honest, there's no vitamins or minerals anymore in our foods, and so the body moves into decay. And so I've been talking about that in form of videos. So we move in slowly but steadfast into electronic nutrition. So all that is needed to become a crystalline grid bearer is to be willing to release all dual factors, and that is breaking the old mental barriers with color codes. So I have an online here in which you can move through into the eternal vibration, in which all energy centers open up in the body. So your fingers start spreading light, your eyes spread light, your skin spread light. And yes, it takes some work, but it's so pleasant to do, to be knowing how to work with color codes. And so I have this big codes in Breaking the Old Mentality. It's about 15 1-hour MP3s to completely clear out your system within a grid environment, and how to do that. So that transition, most people have time at home right now to go to that deep course, and I can offer it and send it through on a USB and send it to your home or any other technical equipment such as our computers. So we need to essentially readjust the computer mechanics in our brain and load new apps like the apps you have on your cell phone, right? And when you know how to apply these apps, your life can change from 1 minute into the other. So it's all about installing, let's say, a crystalline grid in the 7 major chakras from your home, because your home grid, which is extremely deeply explained how to install that just with 3 crystals, and how you can code your crystals. You will learn about that as well. You will infuse them with the first 12 ways of creation while moving these 12 ways into your body and energy field. So that energy field, as I'm coming back to when having cleared the old mentality and the old psychology and moving into the higher senses of divine origin, you will be able to open up sacred geometrical patterns. So it's not only learning about them, but applying them when they come to you and you see them crystal clear. So the first measure is installing a cube of light around the body, or a diamond, right? Like this. And that in that diamond around the body, you have all these 12 ways of creation, and within each way of creation there is a color code for 12 more types of consciousness that can transform your brain. Like I explained, a blue, you can have a blue ray harmony, you can have a blue ray detachment, you can have a blue ray fade, and so on. That goes the same for all these colors, but you need to know that consciousness and align with what the divine brings through. And why am I talking about this? Because people are moving so slow these days, and they just think that some greater force is going to pick them up, which is not the case. It's a time to reconnect and level out in mastery, because this planet is moving into the higher degrees of ascension, and so the body needs to move along with it. And with no excuse yet, when you're moving into light and you have your devotional time with your source, your spirit, and your spark, because essentially it's your spark self in your immune system, the thymus gland, that needs to move on to the other side of midnight, and how to do that. So it's only when doing it that you start to understand and see the changes in your life and in your consciousness. And another level I'd like to give you today is, like I've been explaining and communicating for many years, like 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day with an entity about healing, about magic, about alchemy, what works, what doesn't work, and that entity couldn't understand it, and so we started over explaining it, wanting the healing, getting that back in, and that led to me explaining deep details how grids speak to you, how you can be an eternal channel at all times, like I am. And so that was so much fun over the years doing it, till the divine guided me to copy everything, which already took me 3 months, and rewrite it into a book format for people to understand why certain things do not work any longer, because evolution states that we need to move permanently out of all degrees of spiritual development. Everything is renewed today, and so we cannot align to alignments from 10 to 20 years ago. That is gone, that is dead, because it was attached to duality. And so planet Earth is moving into the triangular configurations. How does healing work? What is the eye of the divine? How can we work with ways? What is required as a light body? How does that formulate? And why are the musical spheres so important? What is modern day music to do with it? Everything, essentially, because modern day music is the most important factor. And so spirit is moving with that, and our source and many other forces. And so I explain how important all the planets are, the galaxies. How do you work with it? With integrating them and breathing them through in the body. But the body needs to be purified, of course, to a certain level in order to download it. That's the same. You go on your cell phone, you got a cell phone from 10 years back. That cell phone does not particularly allow for today's applications to be installed, because they will say you need to upgrade and eventually buy a new iPhone, right? You understand that? The same goes for spiritual development, self-empowerment, and how to truly work with the sun, with the moon, with Mars, with Venus, with Andromeda, the galaxy, with the giants, many species, and seeing them crystal clear, because we are all here to repair the planet, to move into authenticity, eternal vibrations, to repair the animal kingdom, and then create paradise manifest on earth. And that is the reason why so many atrocities are playing out. So yes, my conversations with this entity about healing, about the crystalline grids, essentially came into my book form, Between the Moon and the Sun, the lost keys in ascension, because nobody is talking about it. That knowledge is not to be found on the Google machines. It's the enlightened conversations we have, like two bull-headed entities, an Aries and a Capricorn, bam, getting the truth out for humanity. So it's almost 500 pages. But yeah, you see the conversations are very authentic. Look out the page, and then I have always when I have an explanation here about something, so that explains. There are pictures with my artwork in it as well, that explains the light codes, how they work, because art just flows out of my hands, and that is just through color codes. So an example I'm giving you here, I was surprised myself, because you see, development demands that your dietary system or your dietary upgrades move with physical levels of upgrades with light consciousness shifts. And that is when you get the ideas that are unstoppable. And so I became an artist because I couldn't stop. I needed to paint my information. And so from time to time, I bring a bit of art through and show you how I make my art. And that is very, very imperative to change consciousness as well, because my art pieces will change the consciousness in your home. So here and there, if you see them. So that's the reason why I put a lot on Instagram at Charlotte Chi. Eventually on my website, charlottechie.info. / canvas, or you will find anything at charlottechi.info. There's lots of information. So today, to finish off this week predictions as we are moving into fire engines, so think about what do you want to achieve, because if it's too difficult for you at this time to really decide to take on a course in light embodiment, to work with light, and maybe have some fun, because these conversations, they are truly fun to read. You'll have a big laugh, and because there's so much in it, and so you can rethink if you'd like to go into a new consciousness on earth. So to finish off, let's have an I am card, pull a card for this week. And I am Wise Mentor card for Modern Day Ascension. So most know I wrote this book and from my art cards. And let's see what comes out, and just to level up, because from now on until the end of the month, there's gonna be big shifts. It's not only about the moon vibrations, and like we move into that new moon on the red way, the fire engine. It's really getting your moonlight and knowing what your moonlight is to connect with the current pattern out there, and that moonlight. Because if you know yourself through light codes, light languages, light grids, you can get to know anything. So there's one more thing they're saying I needed to tell you, like sacred geometry, sacred mathematics do not have a meaning until you get them in your grid in meditation, and you can do things with it. So the other day I got a green ray dodecahedron, and I said it was so big, just in front of me. As I work with the animal kingdom, they took me there, and I asked the divine, what do I do with that? And they said, just open the portal, like a spaceship, you know. Open that up. And I opened that door, I went into it, and they took me to new levels of consciousness with loads of information. That was quite an experience. I must say I don't have this every day, but I just mean to say, if you are in alignment from soul consciousness into spiritual development and consciousness, then anything can happen. So, okay, I got my card, you know, the Celtic knot, and yeah, just have a card. I mean, it just, everything is so interesting. Oh boy, I'm one with my inner guidance, my spirit self. That's all you practically need. So also we are moving tremendously with the gold rays. So the gold white universe, you see these waves on this card, and you see these three spirits, your spirit guides moving. That's an original artwork. And so let's see what it says. It's number 18, couldn't be better. 18, 1 plus 8 is 9, is an eternal spiral. So we've been talking about eternity, the eternal vibration. And yeah, I'll just read a bit from the book, okay? And so the more I look at this card, actually, the more spirits I can see. What it definitely means is the more you connect with spirits in the sky, the more you will be able to communicate with them, and that's very important. So it's an endless inspirational card because it has all the elements in place. So that was what I was talking about as well. Having all the elements in place is having at least a crystalline grid in the house. Meditate with it and upgrade from there on with anything that comes, and working with wave formulas. For example, white, gold, and pink. That's a triangular wave formula, right? Okay. So a spiral is oftentimes a symbol for spirit. Yes, spirit is hardly being understood when not generated into the body beyond the control of the soul. So spirit has energetic substances that truly rises intelligence above the intuitive factory. A spirit self becomes the very air that you breathe from your energy field and light spaces. I can tell you for sure that if you work with your spirit self, you breathe that to it, you become very, very light in consciousness. And I mean, the good thing with that is you automatically remove addictions or attachment like too much food. And so the inner psyche is truly the essence that will speak through your spirits, because without spirit self in the body, people have the tendency to always recycle, repeat, and copy information, like people going back to old relationships, people going back to old information, people going back to old books. That leads to nothing at all, and certainly not development. So what we witness today is how fast that intelligent factory is going backwards. So, but we can move the black and white universal vortexes and golden alchemy through. So I would strongly suggest to work with that card. And so the white, black, golden alchemy, as you see, and for some or those who would like to do that, work with the deep fuchsia way, deep pink. It's actually part of me, and that will assist you. Will be very tiring at times, the pink way, because it's a very high level way, but that will also assist you to get the electronics in the body, because it's connected to technology actually, and it will assist you to open up dialogues upon dialogues and new communication with team members, let's say worldwide. Although people have lost somewhat faith in connecting with new people, never give up. Please never give up. It's not worth it. So you can multiply your landscape when it comes to spirit and spiritual embodiment. So also for those just willing to move into a grid environment and a spiritual embodiment and install that, I think I have a 5 to 6 hours alignments that get you there. It's very fun as well. If you are not interested in moving to the larger clearing with all 12 ways or breaking the old mental nodes, and if you want the smaller steps, then please read that book, and it's available on my website. It's available on Amazon. And right now I have a free webinar that comes with it about meditation and the lost keys in ascension. That's to be found on my website. You just subscribe, it's for free. And for those who want a free PDF file and give me a review on Amazon as an exchange, that's a possibility as well. But then again, you need to have an Amazon account, right? So then you can connect. There is the link to my website, charlottechee.info/sign in, and it's in the comments, because the comments are more solid than the description box, and that changes all of the time. Okay, take great care, and thank you for subscribing to my channel, coming to Instagram at charlottechee, or eventually getting into my book written material. Thank you, and take good care. See you next week. Bye.